Asante Sana, at Swahili for thank you, and here in Harambe we also say Twende, which means let's go. Jumbo, everybody, my name's Kim and I will be your safari guide today. Before we head into the Harambe Wildlife Reserve, I have a couple important safety reminders. I need everyone to remain fully seated with your hands, arms, feet, and legs inside the truck at all times, and hang on tight to any loose articles because we cannot stop to retrieve anything that falls out of the truck. We're starting our journey in the Little Ituri Forest, but as we head throughout the entire reserve, just remember we have officially entered these animals' homes, not the other way around. We want to be respectful of them in their homes and not scare any of these animals off. So we are not going to call out to whistle, yell, or clap, or make any noises of any kind at these animals. If you want to have side conversations, that's totally fine. Just try to keep your volume to a minimum as to not to disturb these animals or anyone sitting around you. Now on our right hand side there is an okapi, and on the left hand side is a bongo. Both the bongo and the okapi are nicknamed the ghost of the forest because they can be pretty hard to see, especially at night. Those white stripes on the okapi lead many people to believe it's a relative of the zebra, but it's not. It's actually the closest living relative to the giraffe. We can tell it's a relative of the giraffe because of the shape of its skull, and it has a long prehensile tongue that helps it grasp leaves off of trees the same way that giraffe do. At the top of the hill on the right hand side there is a greater kudu. Just like the bongo, greater kudu have white stripes going down the middle of their bodies. Those stripes help both of them blend into all of this vegetation and stay out of sight of any predators. Along the rocks on the left hand side is a black rhino. On average, black rhino adult males can reach 3,000 pounds, but rhinos have no natural predators. Their biggest threat is from humans, and that's because they're poached for their horns, even though those horns are just made up of keratin, which is the same thing as what's in our own fingernails. And they're not born with those horns. They are going to slowly grow and develop as they get older. Under the bush on the left hand side is a black and white bird. That is a saddle-billed stork. Saddle-billed stork are the largest stork in Africa. When they're standing at their full height, they can be 5 feet tall and have a wingspan of 9 feet wide, which is the same width as the canopy that's above your heads. Also above your heads, you guys will see an animal spotting guide. We're not going to see all of those animals because of different migratory and sleep patterns, but we usually have pretty good luck, and that'll at least give you an idea of some of the animals that we could see. Here at the Safi River, animals love hiding underwater, so sometimes they can be a little hard to see because they just look like rocks or boulders. I'm going to try to hastily move forward because I do see an animal on the right hand side. You can kind of see it's just dove back underneath the water there. That is a Nile hippopotamus that kind of just looks like a rock under that water. Hippos will spend most of their days submerged under the water to keep themselves cool, especially because when they do come up for air, they only need to do it once every 8 minutes. That allows them to stay mostly submerged and cool throughout the day, and when they do come up for air, you typically only see the tops of their heads, specifically their eyes, ears, and nostrils, which allows them to stay mostly submerged and cool, but then able to see and hear what's going on above the water. As for the large white birds along those islands, those are pink-back pelicans. Pink-back pelicans get their name because during mating season they develop a pink coloring on their backs. But birds can't sweat, so on hot days like today, in order to cool themselves down, those pelicans are going to open up their mouths and flutter air into them. For anyone on the left side of the truck that may not have been able to see that first hippo, there are some more in front of the waterfalls on the left-hand side, also submerged. Grasslands of the Savannah, and on the Savannah, one thing you'll notice right away is that it is a lot more open than it was back in the forest. So in the forest, animals relied on their natural coloring and the dense vegetation to hide from predators, but out on the Savannah, there animals that we're going to get to see on the savannah are going to be a couple of Hartman's mountain zebra that are coming up on the right hand side. People sometimes wonder if zebra are black with white stripes or white with black stripes, and the way that you tell is by looking at their nose, because when you look at their nose, you're looking directly at their skin. So these zebra have black noses, so they're going to be black with black and white stripes. And those stripes help act as a defense mechanism for them, because when you have enough of them next to each other, especially when they're running, it does confuse predators into not knowing how many of them there are in one area. Side, you're going to want to look in the mouth of the cave a little bit further up. Those are African wild dogs, also called painted dogs. Painted dogs get that nickname for their coats, which kind of look painted on them. They're some of the most successful hunters in Africa, and that's because they hunt as a team and circle their prey until it eventually collapses from exhaustion. So they are successful on about 80% of their hunts, whereas some other predators are only successful about 20% of the time. And on either side of us, we're approaching what are called termite mounds, and they're what look like mounds of dirt. They're made up of dirt, dung, and saliva, and they're as hard as concrete. They're used by elephants as scratching posts, and once elephants wear them down enough, antelope use them as a lookout point to see if there are any predators nearby. And speaking of antelope, those ones on the left-hand side, just on the other side of that water, those are sable antelope. Sable antelope use their horns for a couple different reasons, including to display dominance when courting and when sparring with other antelope. And they are one of the only antelope that will use their horns as a complete defense mechanism and use it to fight off any predators. Also on that right-hand side of those are wildebeest. Wildebeest live in more densely packed herds than any other large mammal aside from humans. But unlike humans, wildebeest newborn can stand and run within 15 minutes of being born. Couple more wildebeest up ahead, and just past them are a couple of cattle with really large horns. Those are Ankole cattle. Ankole cattle are also called Watusi cattle after the people that first domesticated them. And while their horns are very large, they're still pretty lightweight. That's because they have a honeycomb-like design in them, which helps with their blood circulation and allows excess body heat to escape. You probably noticed there are a couple of Maasai giraffe a little bit further past them, but we're going to scooch forward because there are more and a much better view. They're going to be up on our left-hand side. Giraffe are the tallest animals in the world. They come in at heights between 18 to 20 feet, but they also start out very tall. They're born at about 6 feet tall and between 100 to 150 pounds. We can tell that they're Maasai giraffe because of the rough edge to their spots. Just like every human has a unique fingerprint, every giraffe has its own unique spot pattern, and those spots can help regulate their body temperatures. Even with all of these giraffes scattered around, you may have noticed that none of them were sitting down, and there is a reason for that. Sitting down is a very vulnerable position for giraffes, so they rarely do it. If they do, there are others close by, keeping watch to make sure no predators try to approach. But it's actually such a vulnerable position for them that not only do they eat and sleep while standing up, but the moms also give birth to any calves while standing up. We have officially entered Monkey Point, so if we're lucky, we may be able to see some monkeys on the left-hand side, but if not, you are going to get a glimpse at an African elephant on the right-hand side. You may notice that elephant has a bit of dirt along its back, and that is one way that they cool themselves down. Flinging dirt and mud on their back can help cool them down by about a significant amount. I don't know the exact amount, I was getting my facts confused. but they will fling that dirt and mud on their back, which also helps act as a natural sunblock. What will cool them down by a significant amount is flapping their ears, which cools them down by 15 degrees. An elephant's trunk does have 40,000 muscles in it to help with that. And in addition to grabbing all of that food, it's how they fling their dirt and mud on their backs, how they drink water, and it's their nose, so it's how they breathe. You may be able to see some elephant footprints and some tusk marks. That's because elephants like to eat red clay for the important minerals it provides them with. But in addition to eating red clay, elephants eat about 300 pounds of food every day. And just like with that first elephant we saw, they will grab all of that food using their trunks. We're starting to approach a herd of African elephants on the left-hand side, and herds like that one are made up of any females and any young. Once the males get old enough, they will go off into bachelor groups and eventually go start their own families. Elephants live in matriarchal societies as well, so they are going to follow the oldest and wisest female. That's because she's going to know the lay of the land and be able to direct them to any sources of food and water that she knows of. Thanks to the Disney Conservation Fund, the Elephants and Bees Project, and research that was done right here in Animal Kingdom, we were able to learn that elephants are afraid of bees. So in Kenya, there are farmers who are using beehive fences as a safe but natural way of keeping elephants from destroying their crops. And then in return, the farmers can sell any of the honey they collect from those fences. Now there are a couple more of those Maasai giraffe on the right hand side, and that smallest one all the way to the right is the youngest giraffe calf on this reserve. He just turned a year old in July. Starting to make our way over towards a group of greater flamingo, also known as a flamboyant. And in this flamboyant, you may be able to see 4 smaller gray and white ones. They just hatched a couple months ago. Greater flamingo are the lightest pink of the flamingo species. They get their coloring from their diet of brine and shrimp. It can take a couple years for them to fully turn pink though, so you may see some older ones that still have gray on their heads and necks. You may also notice a couple of them have their heads shoved underneath the water, and that is how they are going to get to all of that shrimp. And lucky for us, there isn't a truck too close behind us, so I can pause here for a couple seconds for you guys so you can see those flamingo, and then there is another African elephant a little bit further off in the distance by that tree.
Look at the elephant.
Now that big tree that African elephant is standing by is a baobab tree, and baobab trees remain leafless for 9 months out of the year. That's to help them conserve water. They also conserve water by storing it in their trunks, which is how they get the nickname the Tree of Life. Coming up is a very popular mud wallow for some animals, including all of those white rhino laying down across the way underneath the tree. And if you see, there is one poking its head out underneath, laying down under the bigger one. That is one of 3 white rhino babies on this reserve. All 3 babies are very, very, very important to their species because there are less than 5,000 of them out in the wild. So with every white rhino birth, it does help add to their numbers so they can continue to survive and hopefully one day thrive back out in the wild. If you remember the black rhino we saw at the start of our tour, I mentioned they'll get about 3,000 pounds. White rhinos are significantly larger and will get anywhere from 4,000 to 5,500 pounds. Now that baby is pretty big, so it may be hard to tell it's a baby, but it is still under 2 years old. He'll be turning 2 in October. Now Along the hill on our left-hand side, just over that hill, all the way back towards the bushes, there is a cheetah walking around. And cheetah are the fastest land animals in the world. They can reach speeds of 60 miles an hour in just 3 seconds. However, they do exhaust themselves pretty quickly, so they can only hold that speed for a couple hundred yards. And just in front of where that one walked, there are a couple more further up the hill.
Look at him walking. Is he the cheetah?
You'll also notice that cheetah does have a really long tail. That helps it maintain its balance and stability when it runs. Cheetah are also the only feline with non-retractable claws, but unlike other big cats who sleep during the day and then do their hunting at night, cheetah are the opposite. They're more likely to do all of their hunting during the day and then sleep at night. Side is known as a copy and is home to animals like those lions up there.
No, sit down.
Out in the wild, copy provide animals with a great vantage point to see if there's any prey nearby. But we're going to pause right here because if you guys look close enough, there's the male and female up here, and then all the way back, you can see the head of another lioness in between the rocks further up. Now, the pride here on the reserve is made up of that male and both females, and the females are sisters. Out in the wild, the females will do most of the hunting. They're going to go out and work as a team in order to capture any of their prey. But even though that male and one of the females was awake, you may notice the other female was sleeping. They will actually sleep for about 16 to 20 hours every day. But when they do let out a roar, it can be heard from 6 miles away. On our left-hand side are warthog burrows, and if you look over your left shoulder in front of that tree in the back corner, there is a warthog laying down in front of it. Warthog make their homes in the ground using their tusks, feet, and snouts. It's also very common for them to reuse burrows that have already been made by other animals. We're going to head back to the outskirts of the village, which does signal the end of our safari. But first, we're passing by our warden's post and some Nigerian dwarf goats. Nigerian dwarf goats are a domesticated dairy goat originally coming from West Africa, but you can find them all around the world now. They will eat any of the weedy undergrowth on this pasture that other animals won't eat. That yellow triangular object in the middle of the warden's post is a beehive fence that they're working on. And the wardens here do have a very important job. They help look after all of these animals and their environments to make sure they're able to get all the proper care and nutrition that they need. Because one of our biggest goals here on the Harambe Wildlife Reserve is for animals and humans to live in peace and harmony. And there are a couple ways you folks can help with that from home. It can be as simple as learning more about the animals we saw on the reserve today and the best ways to help protect them. Or by making sure you reduce, reuse, and recycle, because no matter where you live, you can explore the outdoors and help protect wild animals and wild habitats. If you folks are interested in other up-close encounters with animals, I recommend heading over to the Gorilla Falls Exploration Trail. It's a self-guided trail where you can see other African animals like meerkats, naked mole rats, gorillas, and some reptiles. They also have their own separate viewing area to get a better look at some animals we saw on our safari today, including an underwater hippo viewing area. If you like the Nigerian dwarf goats at the end of our safari, you can also take the train over to Rafiki's Planet Watch. At Rafiki's Planet Watch, they have the affection section, which is a petting zoo. Over there you can see farmland animals like those goats. Just keep in mind anything involving live animals does close earlier than the rest of Animal Kingdom. So the last train to Rafiki's is going to depart at 4:30. And the any self-guided trails are going to close at 6:45. Wherever your journey takes you next day, folks, please make sure you guys are staying hydrated out there because it is hot and humid out here in Florida. As a reminder, just to let you know if you didn't already, if you head to any quick service food and beverage location that have fountain sodas, you can always ask for free cups of ice water. And the closest location to us for that is going to be from the Harambe Fruit Market. Now we are just waiting for the trucks in front of us to clear out of the way, and then we will reach our final destination. Once we do, if anybody has absolutely any comments, questions, or concerns, please feel free to let me know. You can head up to my window and ask any questions you may have. So instead, we say Quaharini, which means go well. So Quaharini friends, go well, go wild, go explore the outdoors, and go make a difference out there. Enjoy the rest of your day wherever your journey takes you next. Double check your rows, make sure you have all of your personal belongings.